Thank you all for being here. This is a new class for me. I've not done this specific class before, so it's kind of a bit of a risk in integrating a bunch of things that I've acquired over the last 7 years or so of doing this professionally. So I want to tell you first how I got into doing interior design and color consultation work. It's a natural ability that I have that I discovered once I was a homeowner and remodeling and then building my second home. And the goal of that second home, it's here in this neighborhood, was to feel like an authentic arts and crafts bungalow within the Finney Ridge neighborhood. Didn't want to disrupt the flow of what already existed here, but it was brand new construction. So in doing that home, I was fortunate enough after it was done and people telling me, people would hire you to do this, that someone literally knocked on my front door and asked if I could come over the next day and help with an exterior color design. And it was a couple. And so that couple, I realized pretty quickly what my role was as sort of a mediator between the two of them and facilitating a color consultation. So this was my first professional client, and I had to somehow figure out a way to serve them, help them, consult with them, teach them what came to me intuitively, what was something easy, painless, fun to do that was torturing them. So in that process, and then as I started working for more and more people, I was also at that time an educator. I was an elementary school math teacher, and then at that point in my career, I was called an instructional math coach. So I was teaching teachers on how to teach kids with the current methodology in math instruction. So I can't help but when working with people, I'm assessing them. I'm trying to figure out what's not working for them that I can help them make work so that they understand things in the way that I understand them and can then perform in the way that I perform if they so choose. So that's sort of been my mission over the last 7 years, is figuring out how to do that. So where I'm starting to go off a little bit is I've now seen the same things happening to people. I've worked with probably 1,000 people on color. And so now I'm also sort of a scientist collecting data in terms of what is not working for people. And first and foremost is that people just don't understand color. It's a phenomenon of physics. As we know, our math and science education in this country, my own including, has been severely lacking. But so we can look to science and physics to explain a lot of color. But then there's this other component that our culture is not addressing. And paint companies in particular, which is where people are going to make their decisions about colors in their homes. Paint companies, I believe, are perpetuating misunderstanding. I believe paint companies are not serving our culture for the greater good. I believe that paint companies are out to sell paint, and in so doing, and profits of higher paint profits, they are torturing us in the process. So my mission is to try and enlighten us about how this really works, that serves all of us the best, and perhaps even the earth the best. So then let's go to the next slide. So this is probably the biggest phenomenon that people do not understand, and there's a name for it. It's called metamerism. Color changes. It is not static. It's magic. It is. I've had people when I get to their houses say, this room is so hard. The light in here just changes all the time. And that's every room, that's everywhere you go, that's outside. It's constant. Our light is constantly changing because it comes from the sun. And the sun is affected by all kinds of things between getting from there to the earth. So yes, color does change constantly. And it's not only affected by light, but it's also affected by what is around it. How we perceive colors are a phenomenon of relationship, and that's the quality called metamerism. So then I go to still, and this was sort of the earlier part of my career in explaining the science aspect to people. So color theory is part of physics. It was developed by Sir Isaac Newton in like the 1670s. And what is interesting about a color wheel, and if you understand this, then color becomes so much easier. And it really is this simple. That the way the color wheel is organized, it has to do with the spectrum of light. And complementary colors, other colors that are directly opposite one another on the color wheel. And a complementary color pair is spelled C-O-M-P-L-E, like complementary angles, meaning that they complete each other. So they complete the spectrum of light. So the colors directly opposite are complements. They complete each other. So yellow and purple are complementary colors. And what that really means in terms of vibrational and a frequency is when I put yellow and purple together, the two of them, the metamerism, they actually will change with each other and they vibrate higher and they create white light. And white light feels better than other kinds of light. So that's really what I'm doing, is I'm looking for those relationships that then vibrate higher because they enhance each other. And the reason that it works with the complementary colors is purple is a secondary color made up of red and blue. And red and blue are the other two primaries with yellow. It takes all the colors together to make white light. So purple being red and blue with yellow, that gives me all the primaries existent, which then makes all the secondaries higher vibration white light. So that's where I'm manipulating things, is trying to find those combinations that actually vibrate higher and feel better. And then I go a step further with that and notice that each of the colors in the complements, one's a warm color, one's a cool color. So even with our neutrals that we play with, that are actually the ones that feel better in our spaces, that feel more natural, if one of the neutrals is warm in relationship to the other neutral being cool, I can do that same thing and get them to vibrate higher and feel better. And I've been taking a lot of my cues, I always have, from what feels best outside. I believe that Mother Nature has a divine plan. Science has been explaining those things that just work. Why does that work? Well, somehow science explains those things that work for us. Well, I would also then go and say that there's a divine plan in why it works, and that outside, that's where we can experience it and feel it and bring that inside and treat us the best here too, because we're animals of the earth, resonating with what's happening outside, just like the animals, and so on. So then going on deeper, so the science aspect explains one part, but what I was experiencing, I knew went somewhere else. Well, fortunately, when I was doing this, Feng Shui was just hitting our culture in a big way, so that I can then also use that to explain what I'm experiencing. So I'm not using probably the exact definition of Feng Shui when I'm using the term Feng Shui. To me, Feng Shui is energy. And China has legitimized the study of energy, manipulating energy, balancing energy to help us. And that's what I know I can do with color as well. So this was the earlier part of my career. And then in August of 2008, under a full moon, I had a crazy experience that I didn't even know what happened to me for 6 to 9 months later. I didn't know it had a name. That experience is called a Kundalini awakening. And it was out of the blue for me, and let's say it wasn't an easy experience. So it took me about 6 to 9 months to figure out that it had a name. But over those 6 to 9 months, I was realizing that I was not the same person. I was experiencing everything differently, and a lot of energetic stuff I was experiencing in a way that I had never experienced before. Recently, in working with some energy workers, I found out that a Kundalini awakening can completely reset your nervous system. And so that's what I've experienced. And I'm trying to find a way to honor what I know is a valid experience in my body and how I feel things, and communicate that, but also use that to help our culture and help the earth.